G'day guys and welcome once again. My name is Michael and I am the DeadAussieGamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today's video is another class spotlight focusing on the bard and how to play these musical minstrels in your tabletop game. So first and foremost, let me just start by saying that this video is going to cover, the bard stuff, but we've also got a special video towards the end. It's kind of like a 2 video, 1 video type thing. So stay tuned for that. I'm not going to tell you what it is, But for now, let's talk about being a bard. What is a bard? Why is it important? Who is it in the group and who should play bards? Well, a bard is a storyteller who uses the medium of art in order to communicate tales and incredible stories to people far and wide. They're also people who have the access to spells of various arcane natures, allowing them to gain certain advantages both in a utility sense and in a combat sense. They are a jack of all trade and a master of none, capable of filling almost any role at a table. Well, in the right hands, of course. Now, bards over the years have received quite a nasty rap. Earlier editions obviously being very difficult to get into playing a bard character. Or, if you play certain characters, certain games will see them as the charisma characters. They're the ones who focus on talking to people and the social interactions, and are, considered to be undervalued in combat. Nothing could be further from the truth with the bard. A bard built well can be someone who can fit into any of these roles as good, sometimes better, than someone who focuses on that role as well. So first of all, what do we do when we make our bard? Where do we start from? How does one create an artistic role-playing character? Well, firstly, don't forget that you yourself, sitting at the table, you the player, are also a creative person. In a way, you are a bard. You, the person who I'm talking to right now. Because you are telling your story. You're telling the story of your character. You're there with a group of people who are listening, hopefully, to the story that you have to tell. That makes you a bard. So take the elements of what you do when you create, whether or not it's you creating the really intricate backstory of your character, or you designing an encounter and describing the vivid imagery that comes through your monsters as they unleash their terror upon their party. Use that energy. Grab hold of it and throw it into your bard character, because that's exactly what they do. They use that same energy. They use that same passion when they do anything. But that's easier said than done. I find it's easy if you can hone your artistic style like a knife to a certain point. Once you find that artistic point, take it and run with it, right? Figure out how you can make this more prevalent in the story. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Firstly, I broke down artistic forms into 4 distinct categories, each of which covers a wide array of inspiring ideas for your bard. First is the physical arts. Now, the physical arts refer to things that require you to have strength or dexterity as a reasonably well-statted ability. This could be acrobatics, this could be climbing, swimming, whole bunch of different things. The idea is that you as a bard who is a specialist of the physical arts are someone who is more combat orientated. A great example of this is things like dancing, knife throwing, being a strongman, even getting to a point where you are able to perform all kinds of tricks, like even the sleight of hand magics and stuff like that. The use of sleight of hand without spells, that is. All of these things fall under the purview of physical arts. Many of these can actually even be used in tandem with combat. I mentioned knife throwing. I actually have a character currently that I'm playing who is a knife thrower. While he's not a bard, I could very easily see him starting a round of combat, using bardic performance to begin his juggle, and continuing it as a free action, while at the same time being able to utilize his knives in battle. And this is kind of the important thing, is to remember that you have to think outside the box. Bards don't just need to use instruments, and they don't need to dance. They can be deadly too. And there are plenty of performers out there who use martial arts in order to, entertain and or inspire, as I should say. Next up is the vocal arts. Now, the vocal arts are slightly separated to the musical arts. So, while singing is very important, the vocal arts could include things like stand-up comedy, poetry, or even being able to tell us a riveting story, or oratory, as I believe it's called. The reason that this is separated is because this particular style does not require your hands to be in use. So whatever scenario you're in, you can begin your bardic performance even if you don't have your instrument on hand, or if you aren't in your workshop carving a statue, or if you're not, able to do tightrope walking while you're talking. That's where the vocal arts come in. It is probably the strongest mechanical choice when you play a bard who wants to kind of perform during battle or during high-stress situations. So, vocal arts, sure, but don't necessarily just go for singing. Like I said, stand-up comedy or even just storytelling might be a great idea. You be in the middle of the battle, troll is rampaging towards you, and you say, this reminds me of the time where a troll fought my uncle's cousin twice removed. Yes, he bashed that fellow in the back of the kneecaps. He mentioned something too, I can't quite remember. Roll my knowledge. Ah, yes, of course. This blackguard requires acid and fire in order to take him down. Add it to the game, and that's, where your art comes in. The next up is the musical arts. Very common, we see this a lot, usually flutes or lyres or guitars. There are many different types of instruments, but I always go with the primal ones, which are, of course, percussions, wood, wind, and string. Percussion, wood, wind, string. Yes, those 4 different ones are what I basically start to use. Now, you might think to yourself, why would I use something like a guitar or a cello or a drum while I need to move around and travel? We're adventurers. It's kind of the nature of the job. Yes, that is true, and, it has made instruments rather difficult and unwieldy to use. However, this being said, a very creative GM and a very forgiving GM might allow you to be able to double up on a couple of things. What's to say you can't put a bayonet on a flute? What's to say that that the drum that you have isn't made of cast iron, so when you swing it around, you can definitely do some serious damage with it? And who's to say that when you are using, say, a cello, that you can't use your bow, which is obviously the big thing you run across the cello, as a magic wand to help extenuate, thank you, extenuate your spellcasting while you play your music. There are tons of ideas that you can use. Just don't get locked up in the idea that, well, I need 2 hands to play my guitar, therefore I can't do anything else with my hands. Again, express yourself, be creative. All right, those are the starting points for your bard. The next thing you need to do is remember, when you build your bard, do not build first. And I know that sounds weird. Bards are great 5th classes, and that's where they really shine. Not as a primary thing. You don't sort of need to build a bard and sort of say, all right, well, I'm going to play bard, and my bard is going to be specialized in rogue stuff. So detect traps, sleight of hand, stealth, all that stuff. That's what I'm doing. Because if another group member is using a rogue, he is going to outstrip you like that. Often it's best when you play a bard, wait and see what everyone's at. Do you have only secondary healers? In which case, having some healing abilities might not be a bad idea. Do you have no rogues? No one with the ability to detect and disable traps? Well, you can do that too. Is your spellcaster kind of like, oh, well, look, my spellcaster wants to multi-class, so he's like a warlock paladin. You know who you are. If they do want to do that and they want to look at that way, then yeah, okay, cool. I'll take some offensive spells as well. This is where the bard shines. That 5th class phrase is not a derogatory term. It's a boon. It is something you need to embrace, take on board, and remember that you can do one thing that no one else can, and that is you can be what anyone else needs you to be at any given time. Your fighter goes down, you can be on the front line. Your spellcaster's spells aren't working, well, he's kind of stuck, but you've got some options. That's where a bard really flexes their muscle. Okay, so secret video time. Now, I told myself earlier on this year that when it got around to Christmas, if I got 1,500 or something like that, followers on Facebook, and I managed to get close to 500 on YouTube, that I would do something that I told myself I really, really hate, mostly to kind of encourage me to kind of put myself out of my comfort zone. And I encourage people to do this as well. Like, D&D, Pathfinder, role-playing, it's all about doing stuff that challenges us, And so here I am on the second half of this video, which I'm going to keep a secret because, honestly, I'm hoping people don't get this far in the video, and I hope people are bailing right now as it's like, oh, he's just waffling, we didn't have to do this. But, okay, we're going to do this video on how to sing. That's right. I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to sing at your D&D table. These are just some basic things. Now, I'm not, this isn't a vocal tutorial. This isn't vocal coaching. I'm not going to be doing that. When you play a bard at a table, some of the fun things you can do is bring in music to the table. If you play a guitar, have a small playlist of musical pieces that you, with your GM's permission, that you can play when you activate certain things. Oh, cool, I'm going to be using my Inspire Courage ability, so I'm going to play this song. Whatever, play whatever, but, be that kind of, guy with your bard. And not only are you increasing the morale for your characters in game, but you're also increasing the morale of the players you're sitting around the table with. And it can be a lot of fun. One of the most scary and intimidating things you could try as a GM or as a player is trying to sing. Because we, as people, it's very hard to get confident enough to be able to sing in front of people. Singing, at some point or another, I don't know the history of it, but for me, it always feels very personal. Like, when you sing, you don't sing to, your best mates and stuff like that. You might sing with your best mates, but you don't sort of serenade them, as it were. But that's kind of what you do when you play a bard in this sense, when you try to sing, is you are serenading your table. And what if you don't sound good? What if they criticize you? What if they do that? What if they say this? What if I take away from the game and nothing happens from it? If you start thinking like that, then, yeah, you're going to fail. What I do is I practice a lot, right? Like, I sing in the shower, I sing on the toilet, I sing in the bathroom. In fact, all of it's in the bathroom, but, I'll sing where I can. Mostly because I remember one important rule, and that is A, I do not need to be perfect. And that B, any voice that I use needs to be the voice of my character trying to sing, not me trying to sing. So it's not me sounding like a cat scratching on a, blackboard. It's my character sounding like a cat scratching on a blackboard. Now, it might not represent how many, ranks you have in your skill. Shut up, Michael, and get to singing. Yeah, I'm getting there. It might not represent a direct comparison to your character's skill, but a lot of players, I find, appreciate the effort of being able to sing. So, here we go. Tip number 1 for how to sing at your D&D table. Number 1 is make sure that your character has a voice that you are comfortable with. Now, if you're putting on a thick accent, if you are, I am a giant orc person and I need to speak like this. If I try to sing like this with voice coming from back of throat, then I'm having troubles. Yes. Yeah, don't do stuff like that. If you sing, make sure it's something you're comfortable singing in and it's not going to strain or stretch your throat. On that throat note as well, lemon, ginger, honey. 3 things you want to mix together in a tea and make sure that you have it so that you avoid, scarring your throat, just from overuse if you practice as much as I do. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Who knows? All right. Second big tip. Use a different language. And I know this sounds very cheap, right? But I do this all the time. Whenever I try to sing for a group, I can sing in English, and then there's obviously the comparisons and stuff like that. And unless it's something I know like the back of my hand, I'll use a different language with a tune that is very familiar. Let me give you an example. What's a good one? Okay, yeah, good one. Okay, so this one is Simon and Garfunkel, Scarborough Fair. So the standard tune, for those of you who don't know, is "Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Remember me for one who was there. She once was a true love of mine." So, just easy, basic, Now again, not me throwing in my best theatrical performance, but it'll do. You got the tune, you get the idea. Now, what you want to do here is you want to take an accent in the game that your character might have, and then twist it around so that you use some of the colloquialisms for the language and use those instead of the words. What you do then is you make it sound a bit more mystical, a bit more magical, and you don't need to stress out about stuffing up the lyrics. Here, taking that same example of Scarborough Fair, let's take a dwarf. Now, for me, whenever I think of the dwarf language, I think of rock and null and vos and hak, like very strong, almost square or round words, like very earthy sounds, earthy tones coming from the back of the throat. And of course, you can't not have the Scottish accent. So, if I were to try my hand at this particular piece of music, it goes something like this. Dolna hende I veion, rokna hevorania, zevando kerkalanovean, de runga veluaero. You see, I got all those kind of round sounds, and you sort of bring it out. Now, I'm very excited and very nervous. How do we beat that? How do we beat those nerves when we go to sing? Well, first is obviously get comfortable with it. I mean, I'm not comfortable because I'm happier performing in front of people than I am performing by myself in a tiny room to a webcam, which is what I'm currently doing. I mean, I'm performing to you guys, of course, but like in actuality, I'm like, oh god, I hope my neighbors can't hear me. But practice in your room and make sure that you just keep going again and again and again, and eventually you pick up the right kind of tone, the right kind of feel, and then once you're happy with it, go with it. Even if it sounds terrible, your players more often than not will just appreciate the fact that you've tried something new. Alright, so the next bit is when we want to write a song for our game, but at the same time we don't really have much to go on in terms of writing songs. What you can do is you can take an existing song and reword the lyrics. What you need to do when you attempt this is to count out the syllables for each of the lines that you want to change and make sure that the bits that rhyme still rhyme when you reword the lyrics. I've done this a few times, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully. One of my favorite ones I actually did was a take on Chim Chim Chiru. I wrote it ages ago and I can't quite remember all the lyrics, but I'll give it a good go. It was also based off a cover that was also done. So it starts off kind of similar, but then, it sort of twists around at the end, which was, how did it go? Winds in the east, mist rolling in, like something is brewing, about to begin. Can't put my finger on what lies in store. It seems what's to happen's all happened before. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiree. A sweep is a friend that makes good company. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo. He'll fight off the darkness that's coming for you. And smile for a moment, 'cause I'm watching too. That was this kind of like creepy song that this dude was singing. It was like an Undertaker character who dug graves, and the sweepers were like these kind of undead hunter type things. So it was a very cool story, and the song just set up the Undertaker really well because they approached him and he was singing this kind of macabre, creepy song, but in such a cheerful way. He kind of was very offbeat but very interesting and very cool character. So that's kind of how I ran that. So as you can see there, I just kept certain words, I kept a certain thing, but I kept the rhythm exactly the same. Follow the same syllables, follow the same rhyming pattern, and often you can just make it work, you know. And like I said, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best singer in the world. I am certainly not, and I definitely know one or two people who would definitely agree with me. But the attempt, the fact that you try is worth so much, especially at your table. Alright guys, so thank you so much for joining. I hope I haven't embarrassed myself too much. I feel like I have. I've gone way too long, and I've done this whole video on this. The last thing I'm going to say is this. Remember that everyone who plays this game in some way, shape, or form tends to have some form of anxiety that affects them. You know, we all have it. We all feel it. You know, so no one is going to judge if you feel anxious doing this sort of thing. Make sure that you remember that no matter how many times you fail, you only are defeated when you don't get back up on the horse, you know. Make sure that, yeah, if you don't get it right, then keep practicing, you know. Try it again for next time. What's that? Your players kind of didn't really appreciate it, or they started saying mean things. That's fine too, you know. Just brush it off, take the next big step, and try again next time, because you will be better each and every time you try. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this video. I really appreciated you guys, you know, pretty much over the past couple of months, helping me kind of go through the transition of the Dead Aussie Gamer. We're getting towards the end of the year, and I've got my Christmas video coming up on Sunday, so be sure to check that out. Well, Sunday for me, Saturday for the US. Again, big thank you to all the people who have joined us on Discord. The turnout's amazing, and I love meeting all of you guys. If you haven't joined yet, then head on over to the Discord. It's, you know, free. Just literally come talk to me. Basically, you can ask me questions. I'll make videos. You know, we'll do lunch, you know, that kind of thing. If you want to like us on Facebook, then head on over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/DeadAussieGamer. And of course, all the links will be in the description below. And lastly, if you want to help us finance our my trip to the United States for Gen Con, yeah, that's right, I got corrected on calling it Gen Con. It's Gen, like, you know, from Street Fighter, Gen, G-E-N. Anyway, Gen Con in 2019, then head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/DeadAussieGamer, and any and all donations help, guys. Like, yeah, it's a really cool thing that I want to try and do next year. I want to come to the States. I want to meet some of you guys who are going. I want to run tables. I want to, you know, I want to see what all the convention stuff is all about. So, you know, if you want to help us do that, that'll be awesome, and would definitely make for a very Merry Christmas this year. So thank you again, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, as always, make sure that you game hard or die trying. Have a good one, guys.